I'm Megan Dixon from RDA Orana, and I have with me, and thank you very much for giving up your time today, Cherie Forrester from RDA Business Solutions, John Walkom from Techni Clean, who is also my ex-chairman, and Hale Gordon from Red Earth Electrical. So both operate businesses. Well, John's is a bit more national, so all over Australia and possibly some export. Hale's based in Dubbo, and Cherie is based in Dubbo and serves a multitude of industries around the region. So for those that don't know, RDA Orana, we are RDA Orana is a regional development organisation. We receive a little bit of Commonwealth funding. Our main interest is actually supporting businesses in the region, so to grow and prosper. We do that in a number of different ways. You know, we look at infrastructure, we look at business needs, and what we try and do is plug the gaps where we know there's gaps. And definitely what I've seen around COVID-19 is that most of the conversations have been around HR and money. Very little has been, other than cleaning your hands and hygiene, around how in a business you can better manage your work health safety risk, which is what we're talking about today. So we are just, you know, there's a disclaimer here in terms of that the advice that we're, you know, giving and what we're talking about, they're tailored to our needs and what have happened in their particular workshop places. So you really need to think about it, take the information on board, but make decisions for yourself. And we certainly can't accept any liability around that. The agenda today is really around discussing the work health safety requirements. So Cherie's going to give us a little bit of an overview in terms of where we sit in terms of the law and what's required of a business in the law. Then we're going to talk to John and Hale about how they've actually managed it in their business. So this actually comes out of a webinar that we ran on Saturday morning with BizHQ, where what we noticed was that particularly from a trade perspective, there was a lot of interest in terms of what different businesses were actually doing and what are some of the things that are doing. So we've picked up John and Hale, who, you know, run very different businesses in terms of getting them to talk about what they've done. Cherie will wrap up with some key tips, and throughout this process today, if you want to raise your hand or ask a question, we'll respond to those questions as we go. So, Cherie.
Good morning, Megan. Thank you. So I guess we just start very simply back to the beginning, and we've all in our business, we have WHS, and I guess this time is the most important time that we've probably never really sat down and thought how important it could be to our business. So, you know, nothing's really changed. It's nothing different to going out and stepping into a fork truck and hurting your leg. Is no different to the COVID-19 coming into your business, and it's how we handle it, and we just use simple things. So first important thing I think we should be doing is consultation, and that's what WHS is, and documentation. But we don't want to snow you under. Most of us small business to medium business, and it's got to be simple and easy to identify, and something that your staff, your staff, employees, contractors, customers, anybody that you come in contact with. And we've just got to be careful what we do. We've got to be informed. We make sure that we always stay informed with what is happening. And the basic is we need to transfer the risk from your business. So going forward is, what are we going to do? We've got to manage the exposure. We've got hygiene. Everyone's always talking about the hygiene. There's a lot of information that we can supply there. They've actually got them online. The state government and the Australian government have done some great videos, and you can actually get your employees or your contractor or your customers, if you want it to go to the 9th degree, and they actually get a certificate. They email that back to you, and you're creating a record of what you've done for your WHS. So if at the end of this period we come out with a good result or not such a good result, if we've got a trace of what you've been doing within your business, your business is not going to be exposed in areas of HR, talking about redundancy and all those things. We've got to sort of get our mindset back onto what WHS is and keeping everyone safe. We need to practice. We've got to supply PPE gear. It doesn't matter if it is our customer or our employee or ourselves or anybody that is in our workspace. We all know our 1.5 workspace, how we've got to keep only 2 people to an area. But then, you know, you have toolbox meetings and you're having all these things that are probably already happening. So we don't even need to change too much. We just got to keep on consulting about where it is and keeping people up to date with the COVID-19. I just don't think we need. Can we go to the next slide, Meg?
Yeah.
Move on. And probably the only question I would need to ask you there, do you all have an infectious control policy? If not, there is one on the RDA side, isn't there, Megan?
Yeah, there is. It's still
also
up there.
got a risk assessment site sitting on the RDA site. So I think there is that is something that we can help you with. I guess I'm not going to dig too deep into WHS because I think John and Hale will take you through their experiences. And I think what a lot of people need out there, and a couple of businesses I spoke to yesterday, is that they just need to contact people or be in contact, speak to people that are in the same position, doesn't matter what sort of organisation and how they're handling it.
Okay, so Hale, do you want to just introduce yourself? Tell everybody about the business that you operate.
No worries, Megan. So my name's Hale Gordon, and I'm the owner operator of Red Earth Electrical in Dubbo. We're an electrical company that services the Central West and Far West as well as Dubbo, but primarily Dubbo. What we specialise in is we do a range of different things is from commercial maintenance to small commercial construction to residential maintenance and construction. But our primary focus of our business is solar and energy storage solutions for people. So yeah, that's what we do, and we specialise in all over our area.
Yeah. And John, I think most people would know you, but let's introduce you too.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, I'm the Managing Director of Techni Clean Australia. Techni Clean Australia specialises in cleaning and protecting hard surface. So that's a lot of natural stone, architectural concrete finishes, and standard asphalt and concrete finishes that are external. Both horizontal and vertical. We're the largest provider of our services on the east coast of Australia, and we cover the east coast of Australia, as well as we've opened up an office in Beijing, and that was before the coronavirus started, not after. Yeah. So I guess, yeah, that's pretty much what I do, and then
So Cherie mentioned that, you know, most businesses, you know, that you know, are about processes and procedures and have policies in place. Did either of you have an infection and control policy in place before COVID-19?
No, we did not.
We had a policy in place that was around. It wasn't as detailed as what we have. We pulled it out and we've had to revisit it. And now that we've done one around the C19, it's a lot more detailed in relation to what we had. But yes, we did, because just with the common cold, with the flu season, we had a policy around that, so that if somebody was not feeling well, they were encouraged not to come to work. And we put a bit of a thing around, because some of the people you employ, they might feel not well, but if they're on a casual, for them to get their salary, they have to come to work. So what we do there is we have an arrangement, particularly if they've been with us for, you know, a little while, a couple of months, and their performance level is right, well, we have this whole discussion around that, where we say, well, look, if you are sick and you're not feeling well, we want you to let us know. But they must go to a doctor. We have some framework around it, and then we can then work through that with them, so they don't have to come to work, but they receive some remuneration for the fact that they come. And we just average that out over a fortnight period. So they might miss a day in 1 week, they get their pay, and then the following week, because it's inevitable, because you're paying them for a 38-hour week normally in hours, that we're doing, most cases we're doing 4 and 5 hours overtime a week anyway. So you pick that up over a period of, so they've got that stable income, and that's why we have a policy. Otherwise, it was very difficult. But now with COVID-19, we have a much in-depth policy, much more in-depth.
And I guess that comes back to, sorry, just following up there with you, John, as you talk about infectious disease, and be it, COVID or flu or whatever sort of thing is, it's about being in contact and knowing your staff and having that conversation, because they're going to be the best advertisement for your business going forward.
Oh, for sure, Cherie. And the thing that we've found is when they made this announcement yesterday around the $1,500 a fortnight, and we've got a team now, organisation, and we actually call it at the moment we call it the War Cabinet, right? And we meet every day, right? And we meet every day, and we do it all via workplace, and we meet every day, and we have a discussion about what's happened in the last 24 hours, what we need to do. And we've done that already this morning, and we've had that discussion around that. And we went through very quickly with all our employees, and they all meet the requirements that are part of that wage subsidy that the government is paying for companies to go into hibernation.
And that doesn't matter there, John. It doesn't matter if you've got 1 employee or 20 or 50 employees. The meeting should be probably each, depending on the availability, is that each business does meet with their employees and just go quickly through that and update them to keep them abreast of what they're going, so that they're feeling more content. You get better work results too. Well,
that's so true. And one thing that we've done, because we're a big organisation and we have people that are quite spread and they work different shifts, so it's very hard to bring them together all together in one. So we use Workplace, which is a Facebook app, and it's secured just to the company, and then they have Work Chat as well. So we run them both together, and so everything we do goes on that. So it doesn't matter whether you finish your shift at 4 o'clock in the morning, they give an update, daily works records, everything. The next morning, when the guy that's responsible for that comes in at 8 o'clock, he knows exactly what's happening. It's just like the conversation took place.
Yep.
But not only that, I can be anywhere in the world and I can look at that and see what's actually happening within the organisation. So we do that through that platform, and that works really, really effectively, because we make sure, doesn't matter how small the conversation is, it needs to be put into Work Chat, and then so you don't have it's not social chat, it's all work related chat. So your boundaries are quite broad in relation to that, because if you put limited boundaries around it, what happens is, I didn't think that would be important, when it is important. So we don't have too many boundaries around that sort of chat. And we're finding now, particularly with C19, it works really, really effectively, because we've changed how people work, how shifts start. We've done all those sorts of different things to make sure that we secure our organisation, because we don't want to have to go into lockdown because one of our team members gets C19. We don't want to lock the company down. So we work very strategically around that.
So Hale, have you implemented some comms channels with your staff?
No, I see. Unlike John, my staff are all local to me, so I can see my staff all the time. So we meet. We've just changed the way we do things. So I run my my business out of my residence, and I have a garage. And normally everyone would come in, and I'll say Monday morning we'd have a team meeting. We'd come in, have a cup of coffee, sit down, and talk about stuff. So that's been eradicated now. So now they're not allowed into my premises at all. My wife is a health worker, so it's vital to our income, but also everyone else's health that she can attend work. So that's a big part to it. So we stand around in my garage or outside. We had to go in the garage yesterday just because it was raining, but we generally stand outside and stand out, 2 metres or more apart from each other. Especially me, I try and keep my distance because I'm not on the tools most of the time. So, and to keep this business going, if anyone gets sick, that's where I jump in to help out.
Yeah.
We've stocked the trucks up with hand sanitizers, and gloves and dust masks, so they can have that equipment for them on site when they go to site. Like I said, we do run an electrical business, so our job is physical. We have to attend a site to be able to do the work. But it's up to us to figure out ways, hopefully, that we can minimise contact with not only being in the vicinity of other people that, we're obviously we've got to keep our social distance from, but also limit our contact to components of a dwelling or a premises that are regularly touched, from door handles to benches, things like that we're very conscious.
How are you handling your interactions with clients and going on to different properties?
So going on to different properties. So there's a part of, so I do solar quoting. I go to the site and we do a full site inspection. So with that, I have to get to the property. That's physical. I have to be there. So with clients, normally I would introduce myself, go inside, sit down with them, explain what we do and how we do things. But now that's all outside. I don't go into a client's residence at all, and they come out to me and we have a quick chat, standing a couple of metres apart. Obviously, we've withdrawn all handshakes. We don't make contact with each other at all. From there, I would do a site inspection, which generally entails just going around their switchboard and jumping on a roof and measuring up. So the things that I'm really touching are mainly things that the clients have not touched at all. And I'm very conscious if a client sort of comes a bit close to me to interact, that if I can step away from them, I do. But if I had to, I would just politely request that, let's just keep our distance. And then I demonstrate what we can do. Like, there's a bit of technology involved. Instead of sitting down with them at their dining table or whatever to explain the benefits of the systems that we install, I'm doing it outside just with an iPad and just holding it up so they can visually see while I explain stuff, and not letting them touch the device where normally I'd show them how to use it and they could, run their fingers across my screen and whatever. But we've eradicated all that.
And John, are you doing anything differently?
Oh yeah, the whole function of interaction with the workplace has totally changed. So we're doing a lot of work from home. So the majority of our team are working from home. We have in our Sydney office, we have no more than 2 working in there, and they work in 2 separate offices. And Canberra, there's only one in the office at any time, so that's a bit of a rostered thing. They have there's a whole policy around cleaning your workspace and how you interact in the office when you're there, whether you're on your own or with somebody else. And we found that the Australian government health website, also New South Wales Government and Business Australia, and I think, Megan, you've got some stuff up on up on RDA website. There's some really, really useful information there and posters that step out, very plain English, step by step on what to do. So we have them everywhere. Our team members, when they start, we've teamed them up. So they're working together all the time. Our shifts start at different times. I think they're an hour apart. The shifts actually start, so that they're not interacting within the in the workspace. And when they go to sites, they're either at different sites. If it's a big site and they're working, there's more than one team working on that site. They are put at significant distance apart, so that they can't. There's no interaction. They can interact through their mobile phones, but they can't go and meet each other and have a break and a cigarette break or whatever they want to do. That's not on. It's not allowed. They're the main things. And then what I explained before, how we interact with our workplace app, and we use that all the time. So they're the main things that we've done, because we don't want to have. So if we have one person in a crew that actually gets infected, well, we can isolate that crew, but we don't have to close the company down, right? And that's why we don't have. And there's a whole procedure when they use the same vehicles all the time, but there's a whole procedure when they finish a shift, what they need to do in sanitising that vehicle, and the same when they start and when they finish. Okay, so they don't take it for granted that no one's used that vehicle. They have to work on the assumption that somebody has used that vehicle, and this is the whole sanitisation process. And that's working very effectively. It was a little bit, to start off with, everyone was a little bit odd. It's something that happens to somebody else, not to me. But over very quickly, within the first week, we really reinforced it all the time. And now it's just like a second nature to them. We're seeing that we're not having any issues around it at all, whether of breaching that policy.
I've got a question for you. If somebody is, and this is a common question that we've seen, in some of the chats, etc. So, if somebody is sick and you've said your policy is don't turn up to work, how are you handling that with them?
Sorry, you go, John.
No, you go, huh? No.
Yeah. Well, so I've actually had someone back on Friday the 20th. Actually contact me on Saturday and just say that they, on the weekend, over the weekend, they were feeling unwell, and then contacted me late Sunday night to say that they'd had flu-like symptoms, is what they'd had. Now, I immediately said it's a 14-day period until you can come back to work, and then use the next few days to do research on what exactly is entailed into them being allowed to come back to work. Now, this particular individual would have had no contact with anyone in that period of time. He hadn't been anywhere bar his house, really, and there was no prevalence at that time a few weeks ago of any infection issues in Dubbo. So, and as it still is at this moment, you must qualify, have certain qualifiers to be able to have that coronavirus test, which he's been unable to receive at this stage. So he's still got the remainder of this week and wouldn't be available to work till Saturday this weekend. But if we can get, if we can get him access to a test, we would rather do that. It was more not with him, he fully understood it, but explaining to other staff as well that if it happens to you, that if you have these kind of symptoms, you have to stand down. So if he comes back to work and he just has the flu, which is 99.9% probably the case, that he just has had the flu, that if any one of them gets infected, that would affect their leave. So they would have to go take leave. And then later on, when there's a good potential that they do get COVID-19, they're going to have to take leave again. So just mainly working around protecting the other staff as well, and protecting them so they can reserve their entitlements for when there is that high potential that either they get infected with COVID-19 or our business has to do a shutdown just due to their potential for cross-contamination between each other that could happen. So, yeah, it was more about reserving everyone else's leave and benefits for when they need it the most, and preventing any sort of need for them using it without it being related to COVID-19 at this stage.
John?
Yeah.
Oh, what we do there, because they're working in groups of two, we've passed that. So if one of the team members turn up and the other team member's not happy with, they've got a sniffle or a cough, they'll report that immediately. Okay, and then what we have in place, we have a structure in place that if that happens to one of the team members, what we've agreed to do, that they would take leave, so we'll do the isolation. They would be paid during that isolation period. Not necessarily would have come from leave. And then what we would do is then, because if you average it out over a month, with their salary under the award, it can be a debit and credit system. So you do that. If they were to come down and have positive tests to COVID-19, that's when you would implement the around their leave. Okay, so that's when they would go to use their leave. So in that isolation period, we're saying no, we've got some flexibility around that, and then we then implement it then after. If they were to prove positive, you would use your leave.
Thank you very much, Hale. You can tell that you've got a health professional in the family.
Yes.
She's rubbed off on you, so which is fantastic. And
Yeah.
it explains a lot in terms
it affects
of
us. So
what you're doing.
Yeah, well, it affects us greatly. So that not only, obviously, I'm self-employed. So if my business shuts down, we've only got that one income. So we're working on protecting that potential, that income for her. So because that's maybe what we may have to survive on if my whole business gets shut down, because there is contamination across it. But like John was mentioning with teams and groups, that's where we're just headed in the last week of once my worker returns to work, is they'll be in teams of two, and they only work with each other for it'll be a long period of time, but where we can do that. But where there may be jobs where we do have to come together. So it's about following procedures of, isolating, righto, well, you're part of that team, so you only use the tools out of that vehicle. That's it. Yeah. If you're short on a tool, your tool's in the truck and someone else is on the roof from the other team, you don't use it. You have to go get your own tool. So there's limiting the chance of cross contamination is the strategy.
So John, I think your tip to business would be around communications. If you had one tip, so if both of you had one tip to give a business, what would it be?
Oh, well, my tip would be certainly communication, but I think what's really important is what you do today will lay the foundation for your business after COVID-19 is finished. But what we've got to remember, once they say that everything's back to some normal, it'll never be the same, but to whatever it's going to be, the normal will be the confidence that you can build today with your clients in the experience that they get, so that if you turn up to the job site, or if they walk into your store or your business, any business, and they see that it's clean, they've got confidence in the presentation of your team members, and the way that they've how they've been treated around the protocols. I think what you're going to see is people are going to be, quite impressed with that, because at the moment everybody is on edge. So what they've got to do is feel confident. If you can show that confidence, you're presented clean, you're following the right procedures, and when I mean presented, it's not just yourself or your team members, but your store, or in our cases, how we present our vehicles, and that whole image. I think it's a really good time to reinforce that image. And if you're a bit slack in that area, you need to fix that up, because going forward, it's the experience that those customers or those clients have that they'll go out and they'll talk about that experience, particularly if it's bad, less if it's good. But the thing about it is they walk out there confident. I think that lays a platform for you, for your company or your business going forward. I think that's going to be the important thing, because everything will change, particularly around the presentation and cleanliness of the business. So they go in, they see dust on a shelf, straight away the confidence is gone. Somebody's in, not presented properly, confidence goes. But yeah, and that's very much where people are at the moment. When you talk to people and they've got to go and do something, whether it's a supermarket or wherever, if they feel that Coles supermarket's a cleaner supermarket, they will go there. Or, be it the bottle shop or be it wherever, doctors or dentists, it's the cleanliness and the way that you approach it that lays, I think, is really going to be really important, laying a foundation for the future of your business.
Yeah. Great points. Hale?
As with most businesses, this is a pretty critical stage. But in general, with business, adapt. Be willing to adapt is the biggest thing that I'd highlight. So, and adapting, just to reiterate, is what John was saying is about your presentation.
Yeah.
Your presentation and your professionalism will hopefully sustain your business, be able to sustain your business, where, especially if your competitors just don't focus on that, which can be a big part in the trade industry. For us, is that some competitors are very good at what they do, very good and technically sound, but their presentation of what they do isn't quite up to the standard. So that's what we try and do, is adapt. We've focused a lot on presentation with our business, and since the inception of it. So that's where we like to separate ourselves, and we hope that we can. Sorry about that. Yeah, hopefully over this time we're it's more critical now, but we must adapt and adapt quickly, in the same way that you adapt to technological changes, adapt to new standards, adapt to legislation, all those sorts of things. So the willingness to adapt and accept it and move forward as quick as you can.
Fantastic. Thank you to both of you for giving up your time today. What we're going to do now is just hand back to Cherie, who's going to kind of summarise what John and Hale have been talking about, but put it back in terms of a more broad and general sense for business. So over to you, Cherie.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Hale and John. That was fantastic. I think it's really important.
Before you go on, if I can just jump in. If anybody, any of the attendees out there have got any questions, or just want to have a chat, use the icon down the bottom of your screen, and feel free. No question or chat. Don't matter how silly you think it might be, throw it up there, because it can be quite relevant to what the discussions are.
Yep, thank you, John. Just back to you guys, it's, back to WHS, and I guess that Facebook app that John was talking about earlier, I think that's a really good tool that maybe people can come across and use, because it's talking about, we've got documentation, you've got the thing behind you if there is any HR issues going forward, and if you've displayed that you're being out there and being proactive all the way through with your business, that's going to help you immensely at the outcome, if there is some sort of outcome that doesn't probably always work the best way that we want it to work. We know that the government is giving us a lot of money. It's important that we use that money to enhance our staff. Hale and John, again, I'm just guessing, if some of our staff do have to work from home, and if we're innovating or changing, there's so many things online, and the 3 websites that John spoke about, that you can actually go online and update, even to do better communications, how how to feel more comfortable when we're in the circumstances of our customers. I guess this is a time that we can change what we've been doing and make it better, because we should be now planning to what is going to be the outcome, and there's not focusing on the bad. We should have our things in place, and we are washing our hands, which we're getting told every day. We are distancing ourselves. We need to keep reinforcing that with our employees, customers, etc. But now we need to move to the next thing. So we're working on our prevention. Now we've got to go for our preparing to go forward, and I think that's the next step that we should be all working with, and that's managing our risk, moving the risk to the next stage.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. They're all important, and it's a great time to, if your business is slow, which a majority of them are going to be, that you look at how you can do things differently. This will shape the future, automatically shape the future of how we do businesses. And Zoom meetings, we needed to. Now we have to do them, and I think this will be a way of the future, just what we're doing today on how we all communicate. The other thing is just innovation in your business, what you can do to be innovative with your business, about how you interact with your team, but also how you interact with the client, because they're going to be more acceptable to change now because they're seeing the change. So they're going to have to see. We've always been frightened of change. This is a period of time where change has been thrown upon us, everybody. So it's a great time for business to work out how they can then innovate within their company on change. I think one of the things that will come out of it, there'll be a lot more, certainly a lot more online marketing and sales and use of social media. And so companies that haven't been doing that in the past will start to find this is how they need to do it, because people will become accustomed, are going to become more accustomed to doing that sort of thing. People that didn't do it will start to become accustomed to do that. So then
back to Hale, sorry John, just there with Hale speaking about taking an iPad on site. Well, maybe he can now, set up a Zoom meeting with his customer and do a Zoom, or do your work, other opportunities that he can show all the information and have that interaction. And we are then going back to our WHS, and then there's another trace of how you've innovated your business to do different things.
That's right. But beyond that as well, so if you qualify for this, for your staff to have this $1,500 fortnightly payment, you may not require them, and you may not have the hourly work to give them over that fortnight. It may be the opportunity to upskill your staff. So when you come on the other side, they actually have extra qualifications or extra skill sets that will make your business a stronger one by the time the outcome of this virus allows us to return to some sort of semblance of normal life.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I'm convinced it won't be the same.
Yeah.
It won't be as we won't travel and meet as we have in the past. It'll be done differently, and I think that's the important thing to recognise. Yeah. And then what's applicable to your businesses, because all businesses are different, but what's applicable to your business and how you can be innovative in your business at this time, and start to look at how you do things and interact with your team and your clients is going to be what will help lay a foundation for the success going forward.
And I would all like to say, really important, there is so much information out there, and I know everyone's getting overloaded with information, but through RDA and through Seeds Business Solutions, if you do have questions, John and Hale, I'm sure they're more than happy to more advice going forward. Is the information is simply there, or even to connect to someone to feel that you're not isolated while this is happening. And there is lots and lots of tools that we can support you there.
And if anybody wants to have a chat, just Megan, if you send this out, just throw my mobile number on there, if anyone wants to give me a ring and have a chat about the different things, I could talk another half an hour about what we're doing around innovation in our company and how we interact with clients, and I'm more than happy to have that conversation.
That's brilliant. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. So I've just put a slide up with some resources for businesses. So we'll share this presentation off our website later on today, and participants will get an email. So there are, as John said, there are some really good resources out there. I haven't, because we're focused on work health safety, I've put the work health safety resources, but businessaustralia.com.au have some really good free resources for businesses around working from home, and cover some of the HR matters as well. So that's businessaustralia.gov.au. So have a look at that for your employees as well. They have templates that you can use as well. If you're looking at doing things like a temporary stand down of staff as well, though that whole landscape has now obviously changed with the announcements that came last night from the federal government. So, Cherie, from a work health safety perspective, and you talked about transferring risk. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Okay, transferring risk I think is really important, and I guess it all comes back to is when we're sitting down as an employer, as an employee, we need to think about what we're doing to protect ourselves. And I think Hale touched on it a couple of times in his conversation is, when you come to work, the reason we're asking you to wash your hands and to make sure that, we clean our surfaces and stuff is it's not only protecting you, but you're protecting everybody around you. So, and we need to transfer the risk. So it's not, and back to John also is, it may be laborious at the beginning, but once you get into a way of doing things, either be you washing your hands or changing vehicles or working in a group of two or working with customers, you think about how you can transfer the risk to the next person. And I guess the other thing I didn't really touch on too much is if we're working with other contractors, before do you engage, do you ask them what they've done in what they're doing for their employees when your employees are going to the same work site, how you work together to do those sort of things. So you minimise the risk or you transfer the risk to the whole group. The risk also comes with, as John said, shelf. That's a risk to your business, So WHS is more about risk and being aware of what this risk is. So simple things is, in your lunchrooms, do you have a lunchroom? Yes, you do. Are you staggering your lunch hours? I guess I don't want to go down to nitty-gritty things because I think I think most people are getting a whole lot of that. It's how we can move to that next level of moving our risk. And our risk now is probably we've got through the cleanliness, or everyone's working really hard on that. But the next step up on to me on the risk is what we've just sorting about. It's keeping your business going, how you're going to keep your business going, and how much you can transfer your risk. You're transferring your risk again by upgrading your staff. You're transferring your risk by, a lot of people think, oh, well, this may be an opportunity to that staff member that's not working really well. We may be able to move him on. Well, no, that is creating a risk to your business again. How do you transfer that risk? Well, this is the opportunity. Do you develop that person? So there's a whole different way of looking at risk, and I think that, as I said, there's a risk assessment on RDA. I wouldn't, if you wanted to, you could actually put, what you think a risk is and send it, and then we could sort of just give you a couple of ideas. Well, have you thought of this idea? Have you thought of that idea, particularly for the smaller businesses? Because once you start thinking outside the circle, innovation, back to you, John, there's so many different things. And I think when people think WHS, and I've got to kind of get people out of that thinking is, oh, you cut your leg and we write it down, and it's not that. WHS is encompass your whole workforce, and it goes back to your HR, it goes to your marketing, and it goes right through. So you need to think risk and how you can transfer it every time. So whatever you do now, what is going to be the next step looking forward, or, you know, and not looking back.
Yeah.
And I'd also suggest that while it's transferring the risk, it's also what's important is eliminating the risk
Yes.
of it.
Yep,
So,
totally on your page.
Yeah.
How you eliminate it. You don't want to be back in that situation that it's going to happen again. So that it's finished.
I wonder, after all of this, how many businesses will actually have, as part of their risk register, those that have one, will actually have on their risk register pandemic.
Yeah.
Because I'd suggest a lot of businesses, certainly some would have had pandemic, but I know a lot of businesses would not have had pandemic on their risk register. And I'll throw my hand there. We never had pandemic on our risk register. You know, we had like, you know, influenza outbreaks and things like that, but not a pandemic.
Yeah.
And the impact, it's the most severe impact that any business can have placed upon them, no matter how small they are, is the fact is, if you have a pandemic, what are you actually going to do?
Yep.
Yep. John, when I went looking for infection and control policies, most of them talked about HIV and hepatitis. So, which was a great base to work off, but yeah, and it was very difficult to find anything actually. So we've now created one that businesses can download and use in their business for free. So
and we've been quite lucky as a nation, because the government have come out, and some of the packages that they've come out with have been absolutely mind-blowing. I never even thought that they would come out with some of the relief packages they have. But if we were to have another pandemic in the next 5 years, the government would not be in a position to come out with those sort of packages again to ease the pain. So, just worth thinking about.
Definitely. All right. So I don't think we have any other questions. So by the looks of it, but I would like to thank all three of you very much for giving up your time and sharing what you've been doing in your business. Is there anything final that you'd like to add before we wrap up this morning?
Well, I'd just like to thank our attendees, Carissa, Cherie, Michael, Molly and Todd for participating. If they have any questions, please feel free to come back by meeting.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good day and stay safe.
Thank you. You too. Goodbye.
Bye.